All right. Let me go ahead and make sure I am sharing. Nope, not that. You guys don't need to see that. Hold on. There we go. All right, we're sharing the right things. I'm going to go ahead and get things kicked off here, and we will get started. So good morning, everyone, or good afternoon or good evening, depending on where in the world you are. I'm on the West Coast, so it's 9 a.m. here, bright and early. I guess that's not bright and early, but either way, welcome to the call. This is our daily lunch and learn call that we do, where it's really just an open Q&A time for a decisions expert to sit on a call for an hour and answer any questions you have about the product, about the company, about expertise type things that we know about, like depending on who the presenter is. So it's really just an hour of our time dedicated to you, the customers, or potential customers who just want to know more about decisions. And so we do this every day, Monday through Thursday. We exclude Fridays, but from noon to 1 p.m. Eastern time. We also record these. So if you've been to one in the past and you want to go watch it again, or you miss one, you want to kind of see who's presenting and what they talked about, you're more than welcome to join any or go look at any of those recordings. They're on our YouTube channel. So please feel free to extend the invite to any of your friends or coworkers. Let them know that we do this and that it's a great place to come ask questions. Really, honestly, just about anything. Just kind of an open forum here. So a little bit about myself, just so that you know who I am. My name is Eric Walmerink. I've been with Decisions about 8 or 9 years now. I honestly lost count. Worked for a partner originally, moved over to Decisions, and actually originally started writing some code as a junior developer. And I've moved around the company as we've grown. I've done professional services project. I've been on the support team. I led the training team for about 5 years. So I've kind of seen and done a little bit of it all. Currently, what my role is product manager. So I help oversee kind of all the new initiatives and release planning that we do, and to help drive feature development with the product. So I kind of handle the roadmap. I meet with customers and partners and the internal team to see what things we need to add, what solves your problems, and really so that we can keep growing and keep continuing to be the most capable and accessible product out there. So that's my role. That's what I do. So if you have questions around those types of things, like roadmap or feature requests, or you have ideas for things, I'm a great person to talk to through some of those, or any other questions you may have. So yeah, that's great. The ways you can ask questions is you can, as I already see people do, you can post in the chat or the Q&A panel. Since this is a webinar, there's 2 ways to kind of textually chat with us if you want to write your questions out there. You also can raise your hand, like I see in the attendees panel. You can go to the attendees panel, click your name, and I think there's a raise hand button, and that will let me know you can come off mute and actually verbally talk, and we can talk through some of these answers as well. So yeah, wonderful. Without further ado, let's go ahead and dive right in. There was one pre-submitted question that I'll attack first. So if I say your name wrong, I apologize. But Krushi, I will be right with you. You'll be the next one to get your question out. But we had this question come in, and Chris, I see you on the call if you want to add a little bit more context as well to your question. But I'll read it first so we all can read it. But let's go ahead and start. The first question is how do you use SQL joins within Decisions platform, relating different table integrations using a foreign key relationship? And in your example, you have some seafood sourcing with many-to-many relationships between, I'm guessing other tables, fishing events and products, and et cetera, et cetera. So many relationship, bunch of different tables. How do we do that in Decisions? Does that capture it roughly? Sound good?
Yes, that is accurate.
Wonderful. All right. Oops, I closed the wrong thing. What did I just close? Oh, that panel. Doesn't need that back up. All right, here. Let me close it over here. Let's dive just into Decisions, because I like to poke around and click the tool as I talk about it and as we do some things here. This is just an install of version 8.1. 8.1 is the latest release that we have. 8.2, I think, is coming out today, actually. So I'll be old in about 24 hours, or this version will be old in about 24 hours. But anyway, let's talk about relationships. So it sounds like you already know about the first way to do kind of joins and relationships and Decisions. Is that right? Under just database integrations?
Yes, yeah. So we added some relationships in there, but from my experience of it's only useful when doing reports.
Yeah. So just so everyone's aware, that is a good point. You can add relationships between 2 tables. So if I want to form a relationship between folders and groups or something like that, I have 2 different tables in my database. I can say, go to the entity folder table. here in what field is the relationship to what other table? And I can come here and I can say, let's tie that to the, entity group. And what are the two things that tie those things together? And you just pick, what your foreign key is, like entity folder ID and group ID. Obviously, this isn't a real relationship, but you get the idea. That works. Here's your relationship. It's now going to show up in your folder or in your database connection, kind of all your properties inside of here. And now I could use this. And you're right, this is really great for reporting. And that's really the main reason for it. So now if I go and write a report in here, just any designer folder, I will see under user defined types. Hold on, I got to figure out where it is. Database integration, database. It's in one of these. Common first, maybe. Common, Eric Suite database or local connection. I believe I actually had it. And then I'll find, it should be in here, groups and stuff. I'd have to find it, groups and users. Anyway, but yeah, you're correct. So let me clarify the question then. What are you trying to do with the join? Are you trying to use it in workflow? Or are you trying to do something with it, like an integration?
Correct. Yeah. So I want to retrieve and manipulate the data in a flow. And so I'm wondering, because right now what I do is I use a subflow to go ahead and do individual queries on the related tables to retrieve that data. But I just wondered if there was like a more elegant way, like if there was a way decisions in the way that it can understand relationships and reports, if it can go ahead and use a relationship in a flow.
Yeah, no, great question. So there's no really way to use a relationship in a flow. It's really meant for the reporting purposes. But the thing you want to be careful about is if you're running a subflow and you're fetching from, I'm guessing, 2 separate tables or even 3 or 4, every time you call that data, you're going to be integrating separately to the database with different calls. So, I call the subflow and it calls table 1 and then table 2. So I mean 2 external database calls. Well, what if that's in a loop and I call that 1,000 times? Instead of doing 1,000 calls or, a simpler call to the SQL, I've doubled it. I have 2,000 calls to the database. So that's your big concern with using a subflow like that. So no, there's nothing really out of the box that helps you just say like, here's the package thing, or like, here's the joins, and then I can use that in a flow and call the join, unfortunately. But you can do in the integration, and I'm sure you know this, you can integrate with queries. So you could write a query that has the join inside the SQL query, and it will output a single data type for you. So then in your flows, you just say, call the query, and it can do the fetch or the update or whatever you're doing with the query. And then you only make one call to your database, it pulls it back, and you're good to go. That would be one option. You could write it in your table as a stored procedure, and you could just call the procedure, and then all your joins could be in the procedure, and you can say my procedure returns information back to me, and you just pick it from the list based off of your integration and what's part of that. That would be less calls to the database. And then the third is you actually can cache the flow steps themselves on a workflow. And we can talk about that more if you want to know more about caching, but that's an option as well to help kind of reduce, calls, the many calls to the database.
Yeah, I had thought about, defining the join in a query like you were talking about. One of the problems I thought could be with that is that, when I'm using the steps, when you use the actual table definitions that you put in there, you get an associated data structure that kind of keeps things, organized. Whereas I've noticed like with a kind of vanilla query, you can only map it to like, a data rows. So it doesn't know what the structure of the return data is. So you have to map that out by hand. So maybe if you have a way where it can be, you can show me how that's a query is mapped to a structure.
Certainly. Yeah, absolutely. So if you're running a query, and by the way, in the 8.3, the query editor is changing again. So subject to change, but it still applies. None of the features are anything. But say you wanted to do a join. Oh, I might have to write a join, aren't I? You guys are going to laugh at my terrible SQL capabilities. All right, if I select star from entity account and I join entity folder on equal any ID dot ID. No, entity account dot, is it ID? Oh no. Folder dot folder ID. I don't know. This isn't going to return any data, right? But that's like a sample join. When you run this query, and it should run and not fail. Oh, did I write that wrong? Select star from entity account, join entity folder. Isn't that how you write a join? I don't know. Either way, let's just ignore the join because it still applies whether or not you have the join. Entity account's not that big, so that should be fine. So when you click run query to test it, you can see what the database looks like. Let me make this a little bit bigger, and you'll see all the columns and things inside of there. If you click dynamic type, this is going to show you, it will actually create a structure with these columns as the types and what type of data is going to come into as decisions, such as a string or a number or a date, etc., or a nullable field or a byte. So when I say okay here, and I have this query called show off query that's, select star from whatever, this actually does go and create a data structure for me to use. So if I wait a minute, I should see in the upper right-hand corner the little pop-up that says, yep, new compile, code compile complete. Now, if I go to use this in a flow, and we'll just create a simple flow here called query, and I go to integration, database, local connection, and I have a bunch of queries that I was doing. Show off queries, the one we just wrote. The output of this, if I look at the data explorer, is going to be, click off and on. Oh, it's not showing me. And we can see it over here, a list of my data, my query definition type, which is show off query. So if I go to use that, I have to connect it to see it. Now I can see that it has a list, it's an array of all of my stuff. So these are all of the columns inside the field. So even if this was a join, when you test that query in the query designer, it will figure out the structure based off of the results coming back and create a structure from that. So that's one option. The other option, though, is if you already have a type, or if you want to map it to a type you have in decisions, like you said, data rows, like say you had an already built structure like an entity, and you just want to convert from this query type to an actual defined type in decisions, you can return it as a data row and then map it with a step, like a list mapping step. I don't know if you know this step. That's a great step. Oh, I'm looking in the data explorer. Hold on, toolbox. List mapping step allows you to basically convert one type of data and convert it to another type of data. So you can take those dynamic rows and say column 1 maps to this, and column 2 maps to this, and column 3 maps to this, and output any type decisions knows about. But you really have the choice here. So on here, instead of saying data rows or raw output, you could also use the type that it comes back as. So that might help with some of your data structure things, but I guess the recommendation is wherever the subflow is that you're integrating and doing the joins and calling the separate tables and mapping them together, I would just make sure that's like really rock solid and consistent, and it outputs the right data in the right structure that you need. And then every time you call that, it's just really easy to use and really consistent.
Okay, great. Yeah, I did not remember correctly that I thought the query didn't map to a data structure, but it looks like it does. So that's great.
Cool. Good. Yeah, it does. You also, if you want to get really fancy, you could write your own converter flow here that will take that query type and output another type you select as well. So you can do a lot on your query steps to make sure that the data comes out in a way you expect it to. So you have some options there, but hopefully that helps at least get you continuing developing.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Wonderful. All right, cool. We have another pre-submitted question, but and again, I'm going to mispronounce your name. I apologize. Kruji, you've been holding your hand up and waiting, so, or at least digitally holding your hand up. Hopefully you're not physically holding it up this whole time, but let's go ahead. You can come off mute. Let's go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity, Eric. So when I try to push my code from dev to QA, and when I try to run that in the QA environment, so my queries are failing, whereas we have the same name of the same database connection in the QA as well as we have the dev, and the output tables are they also have the same names. But I'm not sure why the queries are failing. So how can you make it dynamic? Like I don't want to change the queries in like after pushing to QA.
Okay. Yeah, let me restate that to make sure I understand the question perfectly. Oh, I see you typed it in as well. Yeah, so after pushing code from dev to QA, your queries are failing because you need things like integrations, queries, database connections, all to be dynamic. The names and the kind of the data coming back is the same, but like the connection itself is different. Is that, do I understand that correctly?
No, the connection is also the same.
Oh, okay. So you're calling the same database in dev that you are in QA? Like with the same connection string, same permissions?
Yes, but yeah, like in the data and the tables are little different. It's a little different.
Okay. Um, Interesting. Okay, I'm not sure why it would be failing. That's a good way for the support team to dive in to see, like normally if you import a connection, like a database connection or something, it should import with all the settings and work appropriately. But something, just so everyone's aware and so that you're aware that we do, is when I have two database connections here. I have Eric's suite database and I have local connection. Local connection is our backend database. What Decisions does is it actually takes the connection string to this and saves it off as a separate variable for this environment. So I'm on localhost, but pretend this says dev. And so on QA, you could change this connection string confidently and it won't be overwritten when you import. You'll import the integrations and the definitions of tables and the relationships and all those things, but you won't override the actual connection string. That's stored somewhere separately. And I'm wondering, why can't I just, because I can't edit that one. That's the default connection. But if I come into here and I wanted to edit this, why can I not edit this? I must have done something really bad. Test connection. Oh, there it is.
I'm also using like the external database test progress. Serverless.
Okay. Well, it shouldn't matter. So like it should, like that connection string should be saved per environment. So I'm wondering if on import something got messed up there. But you should be able to confidently like import all of your table integrations and everything you have in the folder, but not override the connection string. But you're saying the connection string is the same, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. I'm not sure what's going on there. Again, that's probably something I would submit to support and we can hop on a call and kind of diagnose further. But if the nature of your question as well is how do you make it like more dynamic so that it can be environment specific, you can in any flow. I guess we'll go back to my query flow. On any flow that's calling a query or an integration or a table integration or anything like that, you'll see under properties, there's two sections here, two kind of checkboxes you can choose from. One is run in defined environment, which means run on this server. So as if I'm running from the same server where Decisions is installed, you actually can say run this from an agent. And if you're unfamiliar with agents, agents are a way to install a little Windows service on another computer, and you can run some Decisions operations from that computer, such as database integrations or REST service calls, etc. That's one way. The other way is you can say override the connection string. So now connection string can become a parameter into the step. So everything's still the same. All the, the data structures that get generated, the table names, everything's still exactly the same. But now this can come from my workflow. And you can actually grab it from a system constant. You can go write your own system constant and set up the connection string here. And so you can do it that way as well to dynamically choose which connection you're calling if all the tables and everything's the same. You can do it on the step level itself. I don't know if that directly answers your question. I may be a little confused as to what's going on exactly in your environment, but does that help at all?
Yeah, it was helpful. And I have one more question for you, Eric.
Yeah.
So like, can I go ahead?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, like if like we have like millions of records and we need to process it, and if we we need to group the records like multiple times, like on 3-4 parameters, and then we want to apply the logic. So we cannot like push all the records at one time, right? So we have
Mhm.
divided into pages. Like one page will have only 1,000 records,
Mhm.
but we are facing like difficulty in the grouping, cause like if we are picking up first 1,000 records, and like first record has a group in the third page, so that is giving us incorrect count. So how
Mm.
can we manage that in decisions?
Oh, that's a great question. Where is the data in a third-party database, or is it in decisions database?
That's external.
External database. Okay, okay. So how are you calling that? Are you calling that as a table integration, or are you calling that as like as a query you're calling?
I am using a query to call the database.
Okay. Okay, okay. Interesting. So so you can't call the full like query because it's going to return a million records, and that's too much data. This is a tough one.
Also, I have a like flow,
Mhm.
like which I call as pagination flow, and then in that flow I am using a offset rows function. So I am like taking only 1,000 rows at a time,
Mhm.
and in the next iteration I'll take again the next 1,000, and that 1,000 will go inside the subflow where we have the logic.
Gotcha.
So yeah, it will be pulling only 1,000 records at a time, not like millions of them.
Gotcha. But the problem is that the first 1,000, page one, you have 1,000 and it's grouped them all together. But then on page two, you can't group it because you haven't called that second set of 1,000. Is that correct?
Yes.
Mm. Okay. That's tough. I would have to look at the flow. I think what this might require is a little bit of a deeper dive with like one of our architects. We have a team of solution architects that solve really hard problems like this. What I personally know about is I know we have some steps that do some like branching and merging and looping with groups. Let me just go find the steps because group is going to return a million things, which you may know about. But if you go into, where's my iteration, not integration, under data, iteration, where's my iteration stuff? We've moved all this stuff around. Hold on, I just got to find it. If anyone on my team knows where this is without me fumbling around. All right, fine. I'll go find it. For each step, where are you? I got to find where it exists in the toolbox. Sorry, hang with me. Flow management iteration. Okay, I should have known. Okay, flow management iteration. There we go. There's a couple things that help you with grouping. So there's like for each chunking, for each in group. And then there's also branching that you can do as well. That's like branch. Oh, I didn't mean to close you. Sorry. Flow management branching, where you can do a branch for each chunking as well. And so this is a way you could take a collection of something and break it out into a list of 1,000, and it will send it out as a sub list of 1,000. The for each in group actually allows you to take a field and group them together and then send them out. But again, I don't think this works for you because this step is kind of expecting that you have the entire set of data coming in first in your collection, and then we group it and send it out. So we'd have all million rows, and then we'd group it into the subsections and send it out.
So yeah,
So
that's blocking the server. We cannot do that.
That'd be way too slow. Okay. Well, that's a little bit, that's a stumper for me. It's a little bit outside of my expertise. So let's do this. Someone on my team, can we make sure we follow up with Krushi here and one of the architects on our team, either Josiah or a Derek or someone, and let's just sit and have a separate call and kind of work through the problem and see what we can do to solve that. But
Okay,
yeah,
when
oh,
can I expect the call, Eric?
we'll follow up as soon as this call's over, and they'll reach out with a time that works.
Okay, so I am in IST time zone, and like this is a really critical
Oh yeah.
issue for us,
Okay.
and we're unable to process with our like development.
Certainly, yeah. We have some architects and some good some developers in India and in Mumbai, in Hyderabad and Mumbai. So we'll make sure that we set up a call that times for you. So I'll leave that as an action item for us. Let's you can go to bed, but we'll send you an email with the right people, and then you guys can just connect on times at work, and we'll get that set up right away. But I'll make sure to highlight it as critical too, as this is really important.
Sure. Thank you, Eric.
Yeah, you bet. Let me just make sure I write your name down correctly. There we go. And yeah. All right, got all your info.
And
We'll
Eric,
follow
I
up.
have one more question.
Yeah, great. Go for it.
So I am working on the development of the error handling, and suppose if can you pull a Logstep?
Let me go find it. There's a couple different ones. There's like log and log fast. Which one do you want to see?
The same one which we have pulled.
Okay.
Yeah. So like suppose we can we can catch the errors using the Logstep, right?
Mhm.
So if I want to catch the error and show that in the report, how can I do that?
So the log will throw an error or like log it to our logging file as an error. So if you hit this step, it will say, take this text and put it into our file system, our file logs under this type of error or under this type of log and whatever category it needs to be sorted into. If you actually want to throw an error so I guess there's a couple parts of this. If you want to report on that, you can write a report that grabs our logs. There's one out of the box under system, administration, system tools, logging. So this is the default out of the box one that is our report of logs. And you can filter them by category or by level, like you had warn error, and then by message. So you can write a report, and I think the report data source is just called logging, maybe. Current logs, which is the currently available log. So that's one way. Is if you have that step, it writes the log files. You can just go report on the log files themselves, either the default one or write your own. But the other way, if you actually want to throw errors, you have a catch exception. Oh, sorry, wrong one. And a throw exception step. So throw exception step has this big red mark here. And what it will actually do is it will actually create a failure message that you provide it here and log it for you. So this one here, if you run it, will actually show it to the user. Like if they're a developer and they're doing something bad and they click the wrong button. I don't know why you'd want to throw an error exception. I don't have a good example. But if someone runs this, you'll actually see this pop up, and it's going to say, this is actually the wrong error message. That's funny. This is catch exception. Oh, because I threw a catch exception step as well. Hold on. Anyway, but that's the idea. So couple ways there. If you want to log it out and set the type and the category, you can write a report on that using the logging data source. If you throw an exception and put a message into here, it will write it to the logs for you with this message. And then you always, any time you hit something that breaks a flow, an exception, so a step doesn't work properly, or you throw an exception, you can catch that exception and go do something with it. And when you catch any exception, you get the full message, or the message that you write, the stack trace, the code level, kind of breakdown
I am
of where it
aware
is.
of the catch exception.
Cool.
But my problem is that we have plenty of flows, and I'm not able to catch hold one of them and where it has failed by using the log. So I have made a page kind of thing for catch only specific stuff which I want to have a look at.
Okay.
Yes. So I wanted to catch, or I want, suppose if my query is failing, so only 3-4 for 3-4 steps I've created a dashboard, and I wanted to like insert the error in that database, dashboard.
Okay. So I guess I have a question then. Why wouldn't if you specified that by category, if I called this is all part of my time off category of errors, and the error is, I'd log out query XYZ failed with message, whatever. Is there any reason you couldn't write a report that just filters it by category of the category you set here on the log file? And would that work for your dashboard? Yeah.
Yeah, we can do that. But for the the person, like if I'm a developer, I can do that, go into the logs and check. But if a person who is not aware of decision, if he wants to check it, that's difficult for him to trace that error.
Okay. So you're trying to write a dashboard where he could see just those types of errors.
That's why we were creating a.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, I still think a good option here is you could come write a report based off of logs, and I could put the message here, but I would just add my own custom filter where I say like where filter category equals, and then what I call this time off. I guess I have to go create one of those messages, don't I? So let me save that. Let me go run my flow. It should error out. Good. Gets the catch exception. Now, if I run a report, I have this. So there's obviously no actions I could take, but so now I see this message, whatever is in the log, but I filtered the view so that it can only be seen there. I think that would help solve your problem, right?
Yeah, most of it.
Cool.
And my last question would be like, suppose like after this decisions, I have next module,
Mhm.
like a front-end team, something like that. I'm passing my data to them or whatever to them. So if I am getting an error, some kind of error, and if I want to display on their page, how can I display that in the next module?
So what data are you trying to show in the next part?
Suppose if my query is failing, or if my flow, suppose I have a log and that log that the query failed, and I want to show that to the front end that this flow has failed because of this error. So how can I say like tell them?
Oh, I see. Yeah, like so with the report I just wrote, it's only just a string that you have. So you could write a string that pulls in any of the data. Like you say this step failed, or this flow failed, or this query failed, or whatnot. You could capture all that data coming from your catch exception step. If you wanted it a little bit more robust, the only other way I can think to do it off the top of my head is you could create like a database structure, like your own structure that is like query error handling structure. And then instead of, I would still log it, but instead of just logging it, you could add another step after this that creates a record in that database structure with all of those details that you care about. It failed at this time with this query. It was run in this process. The data available was XYZ. And then you could just write a report on that database structure as well. So that would be a little bit more development work, obviously. But if you wanted some more robust capabilities around, and then you could write actions, you could have them take action on that. Maybe they right click and say, I reviewed it, and then it goes out of the way. I don't know. But this will kind of be the simpler version of writing the logs. All you really have is just text, and you can put whatever text you want in here. You want it a little bit more column based and action based. I would consider putting it in its own structure, and then you can do whatever you want with it. Just an idea, and that's the first one that came to my head.
This was a little unclear to me, but yeah.
Okay, yeah. If it's a little unclear, it's something we can follow up with too. When I'll type up what I'm thinking to whoever winds up meeting with you, and that's something you guys can explore together as well.
Oh, sure.
So
Thanks.
yeah, let's just talk about that in the follow-up call for sure. I'll make sure we reach out as soon as we're done here.
Sure. Thank you.
Of course, yeah, you bet. Cool, good, man. I like all the questions. It makes this time go by much faster. I love it. Great. Okay, cool. We have another pre-submitted question. Let me jump back to this one. Cool. Hey, welcome back. Manal's back. It says I have a quantity and cost you add together to get total. Okay. Quantity is a number box, cost is a currency box, and total is a label since you're running a data on a flow to obtain a total. Is there any way to have total in the currency box and run the data flow on it rather than using a label because it looks like an empty space in the place of total? Okay. Let me read this a little bit more carefully. I just got this one. Okay, so you have quantity, yeah, you run, you total them together. Is there any way to have total in the currency box and run the data flow on it rather than using a label because it looks like empty space in the place of total? I mean, yeah, absolutely. Data flows can absolutely push the result of something back into another control. You can push it back into a label, or you can push it back into a currency box. Let me build it really fast This should only take just a minute. Let me create a new folder so I'm keeping things somewhat clean. We'll call this data flow example. Now, since this question specifically calls out a data flow, that's what I'm going to use here. In version 7 and 8, I would actually consider writing this on a active form flow, which is really just a little bit different way to accomplish the same goal. But actually, I've worked with Manal before. I believe you're on version 6. So let's go talk about that. Let's get a form. We're going to call this quantity and total currency example. What we're going to do, we're going to have a number box that is our quantity. And I'm going to, I don't have an outcome scenario. Let's go back, close that, get a button here, say go. Let's format this as a whole numbers only. So I want this to be an integer. Cool. And I probably should have put a label above it. So that this is quantity. All right, cool. We have quantity there. And then we have a, what did you say was the other one? A currency box, okay. Which is here. And this is going to be cost. We'll add the label above by hitting shift and clicking enter. And then he says currently he has like a label down here that is like total. Nope, not total. And I need to get it from data anyway. Total label. And the question is can we have it, the total, in a currency box and run the data flow in it rather than in a label? Sure, I'll throw one down here. Let's do just another currency box. And we'll call this get it from data name, which I have to go run the flow. Okay, so we're going to run a flow. It's going to return the multiplication of quantity and cost and return it to both of these fields. We actually can do that. That'll be kind of fun. So I'm going to go into, to write a data flow, go into the generic properties of my form. Like I said, in version 7 and 8, I would absolutely use active form flows. But if we're talking version 6, I can open up legacy and go look at my old like data flows and visibility rules. So let's go write a really simple data flow. It's going to be called get total. And let's go write a flow that does this. Form data flow, get total. Let's go. All right, this is a really, really simple form. It's going to multiply two numbers together. What two numbers are we going to get? We're going to get quantity, which is an integer. We're going to get cost, which is a decimal. Okay, that's good. Those are the inputs to this flow. It's going to multiply those two things together. So quantity multiplied by cost, perfect. And the output's going to be my total output. And we're going to send that out from my out step. Boop, done. Super simple flow. In this purpose, or for the sake of best practices, let's go ahead and clean up my flow. I have to follow best practices because I did training for so long. And if any of my students see me not do it, I'll get in big trouble. So let's just make sure it works. Great. Does it output 23 times 23? Perfect. Looks like it's working. Wonderful. All right. So now I have this data flow. I come back in here. I say, what are the inputs to my flow? Cost and decimal. Where is cost coming from? Well, it's going to come from one of my form components. And that form component is my cost form component. And where does quantity come from? It comes from a form component, and it's going to go into quantity form component, and it's outputting something called flow : total output. Totally fine, that works. Last thing we need to specify is when does this get triggered? Oops, I should have done this back here. Oh, it's already set. Okay, I want to run it anytime they change the quantity or cost. I'm going to run this flow and return some set of data called flow : total output. Perfect, no problem. Now, if you want to set that on either of these two fields, now that I have the data flow set up, you can go to the label and you'll see an option that didn't exist before called pick from data. And I'm going to pick flow : total output. That should show up here, but you also can do that on any control as long as the data type matches. Maybe this is where the question comes in, where there's some confusion. The reason I see pick from data here is because the output of my flow is a decimal. If we go look at it over here under legacy again, this output data type is a decimal. If this were a string, it wouldn't know how to put a string into a currency box. So that may be one thing you consider, is that when you set the output type for a data flow, it must match the kind of a target type of your control. But yeah, that should work just fine. Now it does work for a label. I know what you may be saying, like, hey, well, Eric, it's coming out as a decimal, you're putting into text. That's because there's a few what we call type safe conversions in decisions, where it's safe to convert a date to a piece of text, or a number to a piece of text, or a Boolean to a piece of text. It's not safe to go the other way around. I can't convert any text to a date or any text to a Boolean. You'd have to convert it or run some sort of converter process. But this should work as long as I still know how to build simple data flows. So let's go test it. We're going to call this test quantity data flow. Cool. First thing I'm going to do is just run my form. I'm going to pick from my existing forms. I should have this example here. Perfect. And be done. And awesome. It's asking for a default cost and quantity. I'm not going to set any to start. My flow becomes valid. Let's go hit debug and test. So this pops up. I hit 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3 times 0 is 0. 1, 2, 3 times 1, 2, 3. It populates it into here. So this did source into my currency box, and it sourced into my label. If I wanted to do something smarter with that label, like instead of just putting numbers, have it be formatted differently, I would actually probably make sure my data flow, my get total data flow, sends it out. So maybe I could even send out 2 variables here. I could send out total as decimal and total as formatted string, and then I could have the formatting in the string here. So totally up to you, but absolutely you can take data flow data and push it back into a control. And then if you didn't want people to mess with this, because I can go change that number, which maybe you want them to do for your use case, maybe not. One thing you could do is you can actually set the control to be disabled. So I could come here and I can say behavior initially enabled, turn that off, meaning that I've disabled the control, and it'll be a little grayed out, or style based on your CSV, but it'll still accept data that gets shoved into it. So now I can set it here so your users can't click in to make any significant changes to that field, but it will still represent the data in that, in that manner, in that same currency box. So yes, I think in short, that answers your question. I may have been a little confused on the part of it, but yeah, I think that works for us. Cool, wonderful. If that doesn't answer your questions, post a note in the chat and I'll update my answer. All right, cool. All right, what else? I don't see anything in the chat. I don't see any hands raised. I'm gonna pause, drink my coffee for just a moment and see if there's anything else you guys want to ask. No. Oh, there's a hand raised. Yes, perfect. Go ahead and you can come off mute or type in the chat if you want to ask your question. Go for it.
Hi, Rick. This is Aishwarya.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you. So I have a question on the reports. So when we configure the reports, this is with respect to the CSS, with respect to that. So whenever a report is generated, whenever we create one, so we also have, when you hover over a row in a report, so we do get that highlighted light blue color.
Sorry, I'm getting in here. Let me get it. I need something that has data in it. Logs. Perfect. Okay, so you have something with data. All right, sorry. So repeat what you're doing.
Yeah, can you hover over any of the rows that are present below?
Yep.
Yeah. So now as you hover over, so you are able to see this highlighted blue color, indicating that you're in the second row or third row.
Oh, yes,
right?
yes. Okay. Yep.
So is there any way that we can change the color of that?
Oh, certainly. Yeah, there's 2 ways to change it. The 2 ways to change this are you can write CSS. So if you write like any CSS for a form or for a page, you can apply it to the page. And I believe there's a setting on there to set the highlighted row color. I'd have to go look at the documentation to find it. But another easy way to do this is under colors and icons. You can actually write a rule that changes either the background color or the highlight color for anything on a report. So to do that, you come over here and you write a statement rule that says, if my data equals this, or if the category is this, or if whatever, then the foreground text is this color, the background text is this color. And when I select it, the foreground text is this color, the background color is this color. And so what you could do is you could write a rule that just always returns true. So like rules with no conditions will always be evaluated to true. So you write a fake rule here. And then we can say, if the rule's true, the selected background instead of blue is going to be purple. And say, okay. Oh, that's selected. That's when I actually click the row. Then maybe, how do we do it on hover? I think it would just be this one. I think it's this background. Let's try this. And then go run my report, see if this works. Oh, that's on the background. Okay, how? I wonder if the highlight, maybe it is the highlight one. Hold on. I'm going to figure this out. It's one of these, I promise. I've done this before. Okay, run report. Okay. No, that's on selection. Dang it. Dang it. And I don't like that slide out thing. Go away. Maybe that is foreground. I know I've done this. Maybe CSS is the only way. Foreground selected. Let's try that. Nope, it's thinking about it. Nope, that's not quite it. It's using that one there. Bummer. Maybe I'm wrong. I thought you could do it with these color rules here. Icon image override font. Well, bummer. Nope, it's not gonna like me. Okay, yeah, it's not liking that. Shoot. Okay, well then I may be wrong about your section option to do this. Background, foreground selected, background selected. I thought it would do it on the hover one as well. Okay, well then your options are CSS or the theme engine now that I think about it. If you want to do it globally across your whole platform, you can actually come to your settings and find your theme editor. And we could go find report row selection, which is a report highlight. I'd have to figure out which one it is. Again, this is all in the documentation, so you can go find this, but it's one of these like item hover background. There we go. And we can change that to another color. Let's do orange. Sure. Apply and reload. See if this works. But you can apply it globally on the whole theme of the platform, or if you need to do it for just a report a page, it looks like CSS is the best way to do that. Bummer. I really thought you could do it with a color rule. That'd be much cooler. Let's see if
So
that's blur viewer.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
We wouldn't want to change it to the whole, ongoing projects altogether. So
Yeah,
probably
bummer.
we'll take the latter approach.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna check one more spot really quick on a page and see if you can do it on a page, but I don't believe so. So let's just hang out for a second. Nope, I don't want to form. I want to create a new page. There we go. If I add a report here, is there any properties here that let me change it? Filter, no, that's all behavior. It's probably under, if anything, it's under view. Yeah, control CSS class. Yeah, so you would apply CSS here. I think that's the only way to do it. Bummer. I'll look at that as a feature request. I don't think that's unreasonable to add to our color rules. Highlight text or hover text or hover color. I think we'll just add that to our color rules. All right, I'll look at it.
Okay.
So sorry, I wish I had a better answer, but looks like CSS is the best way to go there.
Okay.
And I didn't apply it. I think I chose the wrong thing. Let's go look at dashboard. I actually, not grid view, it would be data view, right? Anyway, I could again. There's so many options here for theme. We could play with this all day, but that's all right. Text item. Yeah, but you said you didn't want it for the thing. Okay, cool. Yeah, that would be my answer for now.
Okay. Okay, then I'll take a look at that. Thank you.
Okay, cool. Yeah, you're welcome. All right, we're starting to wrap up a little bit on time, but we got, 9 minutes here. So anyone else have any other questions you would like to ask?
I have another question, Eric.
Yep.
So I'm currently using version 6 of Decisions.
Okay.
And I want to have a button and a text on my page. And as soon as a user, enter some text on the page, I want the button to capture the data that is there on the text box, and then I want to run a flow on it.
Okay. This should, that should work in 6 is the way I'm thinking about it. So let me make sure I understand. Let's go back to Lunch and Learn. So you have a page, ta-da, and you said you want like a text box up here and then like a button next to it, or all together?
A button next to it.
Okay. And so someone could type something in, click a button, and then that would send it off to a flow.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's no, the difficult thing is there's no control here that's like text box, right? I don't have under data, under data controls the ability to just put, oh, I guess I do have a text box. Interesting. What does that do? This is news to me. I don't know if this would work. The way I was thinking about it is we do have the ability to embed a form on a page. And you actually do it with a flow. It's actually called under what is that thing called? Flow, inline flow, run flow, inline flow run part, that one. So if I put a flow run part on a page and you go pick a flow, so I have a flow that has my test quantity flow on it, right? And I need to display this page somewhere. So let's just display my page. Oh, I guess I'm right here. Let's display my page here. Manage page. Where's add? I just want add page. Add page. There we go. Page 1. Cool. So now whatever's on that form, and obviously this is an ugly form, is going to get embedded here on the page. And then I could, have the interaction on here and the button on that form. And when they say go, that could go instantiate a new flow. It could even pop up a flow, on here that then runs and shows them to do stuff. I don't know how this would work and how you get the data over into a flow. That's something that's a little bit of news to me. I'd have to go explore that option. So if like I then had a button that ran a flow, get total, sure. Could I link these two together? No, because that's a special type of flow. I don't think you really can. So I'm gonna say, like, I think one of your best options is to look at flow run parts, but let me as a takeaway, because I know we're running out of time, let me as a takeaway explore how I could get this data that's part of a text box into a process that you run. It may be something like you put it as a selection bus item, and then when you run this, we get that selection bus item. I don't know. So I'll do some research and follow up with you after the call. Let me make sure you take note of that.
Sure. I'll connect at the same time tomorrow, probably if you're there.
Oh, perfect. I won't be here tomorrow, so I'll just send you an email. But let me do some research and get you an answer. Text box on page.
Sure. So then I'll tell you what I'm looking for also.
Yeah, please do.
So as soon as you click on the button that is present beside the text box, so I am intending to go to another page. I'm intending to redirect to another page.
Okay.
Instead of running the form or running the flow, while running the flow, I want to redirect with that end session and
gotcha
thing.
Yeah, the end form session to navigate them to another page. So what are you doing with the text then? Like, what is the text do that allows them to navigate to it? Do they type in like a page and then say go, or is this like apply a filter to
Yeah,
that
yeah.
page?
It's a search functionality. So user gives some option, gives some value, and then as soon as they click on it, they have to be redirected to a page where the details of that identifier is there.
Got it. Okay, so that gets sent to the other page as the filter value.
Yeah.
Very cool. Okay, yeah, that helps me think through the example. Thank you very much. Text goes into navigate this page as filter value. X. I've actually built something very similar using flow run parts, so I can get that together pretty quick. But I'm going to explore this for a little bit and see what this can do for us, if that provides any value or gives you any additional capabilities. And if it does, I will let you know today.
Sure. Thanks, Eric. Thanks for that.
Yeah, of course. All right, cool. Well, we are just about out of time now. Thank you all for sticking around and asking great questions. That hour went by super fast. So yeah, I really appreciate all your questions and time and interactions. Again, we do this every day, so if you want to join tomorrow, welcome. I think I don't know who's leading tomorrow, but one of us will be here, one of our experts, and we'll just go from there. So I appreciate all of you. Thank you all very much. I'll follow up with a few folks that I said I would follow up with later today, and look for emails from me. And otherwise, I will catch you all at another Lunch and Learn. So thank you for your time. Y'all have a good day.
Thank you.